Welcome to the Hair Loss Show. Dr. Russell Knudsen and Dr. Vikram Jayaprakash discuss issues relating to hair loss and the medical and surgical treatment of hair loss in both men and women.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Hair Loss Show. My name is Dr. Vikram Jayaprakash, and in today's episode we're going to cover a topic that a lot of you have actually sent a request in for us to have a chat about, and that's about Saw Palmetto Extract. And so what I want to do is go through what it is, how you can get it, how it works, what's the mechanism of action, what are the potential side effects, and how I see it as part of my practice. So first and foremost, it's a naturally occurring substance. It's the extract from the Serenoa repens plant, and basically they take the extract, and that's the Saw Palmetto extract, and they put it into a capsule. And it's freely available over the counter at pharmacies and health food shops. And generally the recommended dosage is 320 milligrams. So it's freely available. How it works? Well, if we go back to androgenetic alopecia, male pattern hair loss as an example, we've talked in the past of what the mechanism of that is, and we know that there is a genetic component of that, and there's nothing you can do to control that, but there's also a hormonal component. Now I normally have my whiteboard, but I don't have that today. But we know that testosterone gets converted into another form of that testosterone called dihydrotestosterone, or DHT, and there's an enzyme called the 5-alpha reductase enzyme that results in that conversion. So if you've got a lot of testosterone being converted into DHT, and you've got a lot of DHT, it causes the hairs to thin out and fall out in a predictable pattern, hence male pattern hair loss. For some people it starts at the front, moves back. From some people it starts at the back, moves forward. Some people it starts at both ends and meets in the middle. But that's essentially what is happening. So we know that finasteride, for example, and we've talked about finasteride before, finasteride works on the 5-alpha reductase enzyme. It blocks that enzyme and therefore blocks the conversion of testosterone to DHT, and therefore lowers the level of DHT in the system. What Saw Palmetto extract does, it acts in a similar way, in the sense that it also has an effect on that 5-alpha reductase enzyme, effectively lowering the activity of that enzyme and therefore reducing the conversion of testosterone into dihydrotestosterone, and therefore bringing down the level of DHT as well. In addition to that, it's also postulated that Saw Palmetto also acts on the androgen receptor. So what that means is that if you've got testosterone or you've got DHT, DHT is a molecule. It actually has to act on a receptor to result in an effect. So the Saw Palmetto extract also blocks that receptor. If you block that receptor, then really, even though if you have a little bit of DHT in the system, it's not going to have that same effect. So we think it works in both of those ways. So theoretically, that sounds great. It sounds as though that, by blocking the 5-alpha reductase enzyme and also blocking the androgen receptor, that you might mitigate the effects of the DHT and thus try and limit the amount of hair loss that a patient would experience. Like I said, it's a freely available in all pharmacies and health food shops. Because of that, you can take away that the side effects are actually very few and far between. The side effects reported are similar in that you can get a loss of libido. You can occasionally there have been reports of gynecomastia as well. But generally speaking, in terms of the risk of this happening or the incidence of these side effects are very low. All right, so it's very safe from that perspective. But in terms of efficacy, I don't think it certainly hasn't been proven to be very effective. Certainly as effective as finasteride in that respect. So the problem that I've got is that there are no studies of any statistical significance or power that have demonstrated a beneficial effect of Saw Palmetto. Now, there may be some benefit, but certainly in comparison with other therapies, there's not a lot of evidence to suggest that it has a significant impact. Now, I mean, one of the things is that it's been around for a long time, but it probably hasn't been studied as extensively as, say, these other medications like finasteride or minoxidil. And part of the reason why is because it's a naturally occurring substance. It doesn't have the backing of big pharma to do these multi-centered, double-blind, randomized control studies. So, one of the questions, if you're a cynic, you could ask is, well, this medication, or the supplement, I should say, hasn't been adequately tested. And that's a fair point. But I can speak from my own practice in that I've seen many patients that have been on Saw Palmetto, and I've not seen anyone that has had a significant improvement with being on Saw Palmetto. Now, I know there are people, I've heard stories of people that have had tremendous results with Saw Palmetto and minimal side effects with that. I've seen pictures of that as well, and I have no doubt that those stories are true. But in my experience, I've never seen that, so I can't, I wouldn't necessarily advocate this as a definitive therapy that I can back up with statistical data to state that a patient will get X amount of improvement over X period of time, or X amount of stability, I should say, over a period of time with Saw Palmetto. So, as you can probably tell, it's not something that I recommend in my practice. So if I see a patient with male pattern hair loss, I don't usually suggest that they take Saw Palmetto. That said, I've had patients that have been on Saw Palmetto and I have no problems with them continuing, but I haven't seen the benefits of being on the medication in comparison to other therapies, for me to go, oh look, this is going to be a beneficial treatment. But again, I have no problems if a patient wants to be on it. So the next question probably is, well, what do you do with someone who cannot tolerate finasteride? If it acts in a similar way to finasteride, and Saw Palmetto has a lower side effect profile, and a patient can't tolerate any finasteride, and they've tried various doses and can't tolerate that, would I still suggest Saw Palmetto in that case? Well, I don't have an issue with it, but I probably look at other treatment options instead. So if we think about how the medical treatment of male pattern hair loss, we look at blocker therapy, and that would be your finasteride and dutasteride. And on the other side, we've got your stimulation therapy, so minoxidil, low-level laser, PRP, derma rolling as well. So if I felt that I had a patient who couldn't tolerate any sort of 5-alpha reductase blockade, then instead of persevering down the Saw Palmetto path, which I don't have an issue with, again, I would probably look more at looking at what we could achieve with stimulation therapy. But I think in summary, I think it's from the data, it's very safe. So I don't have an issue with people being on it. I don't see it as a significant substitute necessarily for something like finasteride or dutasteride. I just haven't seen the data to support that, and therefore I can't authentically recommend it from that perspective. But I have no problems with people using it. Once again, I hope you find that useful. Please leave a comment in the section below. If you've enjoyed the channel, please remember to subscribe. I hope you're all keeping well, and we'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.